Episode 32 of the Interpretation Station is Call to Order. Welcome everybody, dobro došli, to a new episode in the wham, bam, thank you, Roland format. Today is an episode for my Jedi-speaking viewers, in particular those who have the Bosnian dialect. Will find this very useful today. It's been about a week since I last made a wham bam thank you Roland episode. I'm a bit out of practice, so I hope it all comes off okay. So today's statement, we'll cut straight to the chase. Now, today's statement, if you recall from last week, I posted on the LinkedIn group a statement that was made by the chairman of the Bosnia Presidency, Šefik Džaferović. And that statement was delivered at the European Union Western Balkans Summit on the 6th of May 2020. I'm sorry it's a bit out of date. The problem is with these statements that I do from Jedi is that they're a bit harder to find. See, the ones from French, Spanish, I can easily get hold of them. The ones from Jedi, as I say, I have to sort of look through the records. I have to go and look at the foreign ministries and the prime ministers' web pages to sort of lay my hands on these. Sometimes it's a bit out of date. But anyway, this is a good statement actually by Šefik. And so if you look now at the screen, you'll see that statement come up. You may recall it and take you through it, go in a bit of detail of what I wrote there. Okay, so hopefully you can see that all there now. Let's start then. So the first thing I sort of highlighted here is the expression, izrazim saučešće. So just to remind, just a sort of classic way of saying that in English is obviously to extend one's condolences. We can also offer condolences. If you want something different from condolences, we can do sympathies maybe. Often in let's say at the UN, when somebody dies, you're going to have a lot of countries coming, making very similar introductions, mourning that person's passing. So it's good when you're in that sort of situation to have a few different options, not to always just say the same thing. We extend our condolences, but, mix it up a little bit. Then in the second paragraph, in the second sentence, he sort of reiterates this. U našim molitvama I mislima. And so here I thought it would be useful to give you an expression that might not come that naturally to English B speakers, maybe not to A speakers as well. But often we obviously, in English, we do say this, our hearts go out to the families, our hearts go out to the victims, whatever. So that's always a good one to have in reserve as well, that expression. It's also good, to recognize if it comes the other way. That's what it just means, it just again means more like it talks about saučešće. Okay, next paragraph here. So the situation we're living through, going through, you could say also. Here I've just, next sent the line here of a nesreća, maybe that's a word that sometimes might pass you by just in the moment. So just to remember our misfortune, this misfortune that we're going through. You could also say, sometimes in English we say like this malaise. It's like a word that we've stolen from the French, that you could say in theory, this malaise that we're living through. It's very, very, very high register. Stavila u prvi plan next. So, this is to save you having to say, placed at the forefront, the need or whatever. So just in English, you can say this in one word. This is a good word to have, underscored. It's underscored the need for greater mutual cooperation. Okay, this next paragraph. U ovom teškom vremenu. So just to give you something a bit different from always saying these difficult times, these hard times. In English, we often say in these testing times, in these trying times. I think he's going to repeat it a bit later on again. So especially, if it's a notion that he's repeating, it's good to have a couple of alternatives. Here at the end, I've just given you the best way of sort of reflecting this notion in English. Okay, so carries even greater weight and symbolism. So in the Jedi, it says, ima veću težinu. I think in English it sounds better to say something carries weight, carries symbolism. Now, okay, this is an interesting little paragraph. Izrazim naše zadovoljstvo. So what I've done here, rather than sort of saying literally expresses our satisfaction that, again, which is quite a lot of words, welcomes the fact is a bit quicker, more to the point. You could also say without, technically you could drop the fact and just say welcome, but you'd have to slightly change the next part of the sentence. You have to say, I'd like to welcome Bosnia's becoming a part of the joint agreement, okay? So if you drop the fact, it makes the next little part just that slightly bit more difficult, okay? So you can just say welcomes the fact that Bosnia's become a part of the agreement, or if you want to do away with the fact, you can just say I'd like to welcome Bosnia's becoming a part of blah, blah, blah. So it's up to you. I think it's maybe easier just to throw in the fact. It makes the rest of the sentence a bit easier. Okay, this agreement, it's it's obviously technically this is a specific agreement. As I had to look it up, I hadn't heard of it before, I must admit. So it's called the Joint Procurement Agreement for Medical Countermeasures. So if you do a lot of EU work with the Balkans, so there you go, that agreement might come up quite a bit. And I think I'd advise you if they're to mention that agreement again, I would just call it the agreement or the joint agreement. Now, and then the sentence carries on here, kao izbog odluke Evropske unije. Now, the one thing you've got to be careful of here is, again, how you continue this sentence rather depends on how you start it out. So, if you've gone with the welcome the fact that, okay, that continues on, this kao izbog continues on from the welcoming. It welcomes the fact that Bosnia became a part of the agreement and the decision. So it welcomes the decision also. So, and the decision of the EU. Now, if you were to drop the fact, if you'd said welcomes Bosnia's becoming a part, and then this bit here, you would say, and the decision of the European Union. So there, it's not so difficult. You're just welcoming the decision. So that, just be aware that how you start out is going to affect how the rest of the sentence is formed. Okay, the izuzme Zapadni Balkan, okay, to exempt the Western Balkans, and od obaveze dobivanja odobrenja. So I think the best way to do this is from requiring or from needing. Odobrenja, okay, the like-for-like solution, I guess, is approvals. So I've given you authorizations as well. Often when it comes to these sort of official documents, for transport of medical equipment. I know, like in Syria, for example, they talk about Syria. Always the question is getting authorizations for the convoys. That's I know. Often that's the word that almost more immediately comes to my head, the authorizations, than the approvals. I think either would work here. Okay, now, organizacija današnjeg video sastanka. So just to give you something different from just saying organization, nice word, in English, to convene a meeting. You can summon a meeting as well, so it's good to have a couple of synonyms there. And I mean, obviously, this is a concept it comes up all the time now, doesn't it? Virtually all meetings are video sastanci. So, and I know it can sometimes throw you if you're not used to it, perhaps. I always just say VTC meeting. Okay, I just say that every time. I don't even know what VTC stands for. Video. No idea. I'm not an electrotechniker, so I've got no idea. I don't know what the VTC stands for, but that's what I say every time, VTC meeting. And here, what I would do here is probably put a full stop. That's what that big dot is, okay? And then you can just start a new sentence, and it sort of breaks it up a little. It gives us the chance to blah, blah, blah. Uprkos izuzetno teškoj situaciji, so just to give you another synonym again here, perhaps you might be tempted to say the exceptionally difficult situations. Look, here is again going with the teškoj situaciji. So we can say the exceedingly difficult situation. Or another solution that's just sort of come to me is rather than having to do an adjective and a noun, just to say despite the desperate situation. I think desperate sums up nicely, encapsulates those two words. Izuzetno teško. I think it's a desperate situation. Then this here, okay, značaj koje Evropska unija pridaje Zapadnom Balkanu. Just to remind you of the verb that we use with significance, the sort of collocation with significance, so attach significance to something. We can also say, ascribe significance to something, so it's always good to remember that. And okay, so here at the end of this sentence, I've put as a natural part there too, or I suppose you could say as a natural part thereof. Now, it's a good skill to have, actually, to be able to use this device, this thereto or thereof, when in a non-English language, like a clause is added on at the end. For example, when they say something like, as stipulated in the Constitution and the provisions thereof, for example. You see, in English it would sound a bit ugly to say, as stipulated in the Constitution and its provisions. It sounds, the register sounds a little bit higher if you sort of say it that way. Stipulated in the Constitution and the provisions thereof. So I mean, so it's like it is here. Again, if you were to say like, the significance the EU attaches to the Western Balkans as its natural part. I just don't like this. This doesn't sound right. It's slightly awkward, however way you do it. I think it just sounds slightly nicer if you go, as a natural part thereto or thereof. It's a solution that often comes up, for example, with Spanish. Just the syntax in Spanish is often like that, where they'll have that bit attached to the end of a sentence, referring to a subsidiary part of something else, and that's a way I like to deal with that, using this device, the thereof or thereto. Next paragraph. Okay, so here, u ime Bosne I Hercegovine. Now, at least where I work, which is mainly the UN. The convention there is you can just say Bosnia. So I've done meetings. There's a lot of meetings like in New York to do with the ICTY, for example. And whenever they referred to Bosnia Herzegovina, it was always acceptable just to say Bosnia. So what I've written here is where I work. Just scroll up. Where I work, it's considered acceptable to drop the and Herzegovina part. But different organizations may have different naming conventions. So, for example, I don't know what in the European Union, maybe in the EU, you're told you have to say Bosnia and Herzegovina. At any rate, at the UN, we can just say Bosnia. So it just depends. Just depends on as I say, on the different naming conventions. Okay, so carrying on then. So uvrštavanju vrh prioriteta. So I've given you just here, we make something a top priority. Pretty straightforward. This is the next paragraph here. Da još jednom podvučemo. So this is a classic case where, you've got 3 words here in Serbian. All that can just be encapsulated into the word to reiterate. Okay, pristup Evropske unije da u njeno. See this? So, okay, the pristup, the approach. So it sounds a bit odd, in the Jedi, the approach, we commend the approach of the EU that in its strategy. So this is the syntax is a bit tricky for putting into English. So obviously, when you talk about an approach whereby, okay, not an approach. When you're describing what's contained within that approach, you want to say that, the approach whereby in its strategy for economic recovery, it also includes its neighborhood, okay? Its neighboring region. So when you talk about an approach, and obviously approaches, pristup is something, a notion, it comes up a lot, and when the speaker's going to then give you the details of that approach, you want to say the approach whereby we do this, that, and the other. All right. Sa posebnim mjestom za Zapadni Balkan. So just to give you an interesting solution there. So pride of place. That's something we say quite a bit in English. Okay. Next paragraph. So here again, I would skip the i Herzegovina. Now, this again, so realizacija strategije. So this is one of these sort of words, and he's going to start using it quite a few times in the last few paragraphs, which again, if you're in a hurry, it's pretty legitimate to just drop it because, okay, in this case, it's the realizacija strategije. So, when you talk about strategy, I mean, again, it sort of goes without saying that the strategy is going to be implemented, or realizacija plana, realizacija politike. That word, the implementation of it, is sort of, you can skip it a lot of the time. Okay, and then, so I would say here, Bosnia believes that the strategy for economic recovery, always remember that's a good sort of set phrase to remember, economic recovery. Okay, omogućiti najizraženije pozitivne efekte. So I thought the best solution here would, rather than having to say that would enable the most outstanding positive effects. Again, that sounds very very verbose in English. You could just say here, just to maximize, that's a good word to have at the ready, maximize the positive effects for oživljavanje ekonomije. So giving you a couple of things. So we often talk about reviving the economy. And then in addition to reviving, it's even slightly higher register, a very good word is to resuscitate the economy. As we resuscitate, I don't know, a victim of a heart attack, we use that often in the sense also of an economy all right, to resuscitate an economy, you talk about resuscitating someone's fortunes, a country's fortunes, whatever. Again, here, intenziviranje realizacije. Just drop the realizacije, so intensifying the connectivity agenda. So this word is coming up quite a bit. I think if you recall the last Wham Bam, thank you, Roland. Maybe it was the first one I did with the Croatian foreign minister. They talked about connectivity there. So that's a word now that you should have engraved in your mind, connectivity. Then just a reminder here for you, this last bit of this paragraph, malim i srednjim preduzećima, SMEs, that's a good acronym that we can always use in English. Small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, it's a good one to know. Okay, nadležne institucije u BiH intenzivno rade na pripremi. So what I've given you here, this is a really good word to have, okay? I mean, here I think, you could just say the institutions, the authorities, without having to say nadležne. I know in Jeddah, often that comes together, nadležne institucije, nadležne vlasti. So if you want to get across that notion of nadležne, a very good, as I say, solution here, which I've underlined, is the line ministries, the line institutions, the line authorities. It gives you that sense that they're the ones directly responsible. And okay, and then what I put here is the line institutions are busy preparing. Now, why is this important? Well, I'm going to tell you why this is important. Because, okay, so I've been doing this job now for 12 years, and whenever I hear, whatever language it may be, a phrase like intensivno rade, okay, every time I say they're working flat out, they're working hard to do something, which is perfectly correct, it's fine. But you know what? The funny thing is, in English, we actually, it just occurred to me, doing these things, these solutions sort of come to mind when you get your brain cells really working. So what we say in English when we're really working flat out, doing something, is we're busy doing something, we're busy preparing something, we're busy doing our homework, we're busy setting up the new business. And that means, when we say that we're busy doing something, it means intenzivno radimo, okay, 99% of the time. And it's so it just sounds that a little bit more naturally English when you say that, as opposed to we are working flat out to prepare, okay? So keep that solution in mind, okay? Are busy. Okay, then just to remind you here, prijedlog projekata, so we call these draft projects, okay? We talk about draft laws, draft resolutions. That's a very common solution, okay, for that. Again, skipping the Herzegovina. Sorry if you're from Herzegovina. I hope you don't feel offended. Paketa proširenja u junu. So that's called the enlargement package. I think that's a technical term. And then, okay, I've given you an interesting solution here. This last bit of the paragraph. Predstavljati novi značajan podstrek za ubrzanje evropskog puta. Okay, so I know the temptation here would be to say something like, constitutes a new significant boost for accelerating the European path of the whole region. And you know what? The chances are I would probably say it myself, just as you hear the words coming out. But just remember this word, fast track. This word fast track is really good. It could really help you out of some situation. And it's just nice to have it as an alternative to always talking about accelerating. Now, some of you might say, but fast track, that means there's like a slow track and there's a fast track. And to which I would reply, well, there kind of is, isn't there? Is there not in the European Union? Because you have this region, the Western Balkans on the one hand, but then you also have the possible EU enlargement for the countries, some of the countries of the former Soviet Union, your Moldovas, your Georgias. So you could say that, they want the Western Balkans to be fast-tracked as opposed to the others, speed it up. So trust me, it's a very good word to have, to fast-track. And it, I think it 99% of the way reflects the same meaning in many of these things that accelerate does. Okay, so the final paragraph, konkretan pokazatelj, so a good, much better than concrete sign. I think it's a tangible sign. That's very good word, generally, tangible. And then coming to the last sentence here. Okay, omogući taj naredni korak. I've given you enable there. I'm sure you all know enable. On je dostižno I realno, so a couple of useful adjectives to have here. So attainable is a very good one. So, better than, like, you could say feasible. Membership is feasible, but I guess dostižno, the idea is that some real effort needs to be made to get it. So attainable and realistic as opposed to just real. Okay, realistic sounds better. Imaju smisao. Again, here maybe the temptation would be just initially to go with have meaning, okay, by just mirroring the original. So as I said here, mean something would sound better than have meaning. So yeah, in English it would actually sound better to say, so that we can see that EU membership is attainable and realistic, and that our efforts mean something. That sounds more natural in English, all right? And the last solution I give you here, I was quite pleased with myself getting this when I was thinking, the ohrabreni. You want to sort of think of that as a clause like unto itself. You have to put like commas on either side. Rather than just, and encouraged, continue with the necessary reforms. Again, which is fine. But again, this is a very good adjective also to have as a solution, slightly higher register. Emboldened, all right? You often talk about bold moves, bold strategies generally. Have that word bold in your mind. So that's a very good one. Emboldened. Okay, that's pretty much that for today. Hope you've enjoyed the episode. Hope you've learned some new words. Hope you can apply some of these new words next time that you're working. If you've enjoyed the episode, please do smash the thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. And if you ring the bell, you get notifications when all the new videos are coming out. As you see, I'm trying to fire one out of these. I'm trying to get one a week out for you. I'm really doing my best for you guys, okay? I'm going to do one a week for you. And please pass the message on to any of your friends, any of your colleagues, fellow students who want to, hopefully increase their knowledge, improve their skills. Tell them, tell your teachers, tell everyone, tell mom, dad, baba, and dada as well. Get them all to sign up to the interpretation station. Okay, it's been a pleasure, as ever. All I have to say is that episode 32 of the interpretation station is adjourned.
The train is now leaving the interpretation station. We hope you